Hi everyone. The solution that we worked on was low-cost tent heaters, and um, a bit about the problem that we decided to choose. Um, Over 500,000 people in the U.S. experience homelessness, and there are thousands of deaths and illnesses related to the cold, both in housed and unhoused populations. And looking at these two issues and kind of the systemic injustices that exist, we wanted to focus on improving comfort and safety for those experiencing homelessness in the US through a harm reduction tactic. Um, the current solutions that exist on the market for tent heaters cost over $100, and they're from REI. They're also pretty bulky and very prone to being swept by the police, which happens pretty often in homeless encampments, at least in the US, and are also prone to being stolen. So also current solutions for those experiencing homelessness and who cannot afford to buy a tent heater. The first go-to is on the left. I don't know how well you can see it, but people will try to insulate themselves from the cold. This is through found material like cardboard or blankets or clothes, just trying to keep themselves off the ground so that they're not exposed to the direct cold surface. But aside from that, a lot of homeless people will resort to burning materials such as wood, trash, and grease to heat their spaces. Not only is this super dangerous because of the fire hazard, these also produce fumes that totally like deteriorate their health, and it's just not a long-term viable solution. Oh, and one more thing on the last slide. I think there's this common misconception that for those who are experiencing homelessness and who are at this kind of risk, they should just go to a shelter. And this is not really a solution. On the West Coast, shelters in major cities do not have capacity for more than 50% of the homeless population in these cities. So there is simply not enough capacity, and this is not really a solution for homeless people because they're not able to bring their belongings with them. If they have pets, they're not allowed to bring them into shelters. So solving this issue of heat for those who are actively out in the cold is a pretty pressing issue. So we happened upon this initiative called the Heater Block Initiative. This was created by an anarchist initiative where there's no organization to this. They developed this very thoughtful guide that walks you through how to use easily accessible materials to produce very low cost heaters that are safe for tents because they don't produce fumes as they're alcohol burning, and they have some built-in safety measures. So last year, Henry and I worked on building some of these and passed them out at People's Park in Berkeley, which has unfortunately now been shut down by the police, but was an encampment that existed for many, many years. And yeah, we worked on improving this solution in this class.
So really, what is the solution? It's an alcohol burning heater, and how that works is it has a few parts. It has this copper coil, it has a wick, and then it has a reservoir of fuel, the isopropyl alcohol. And so the wicks will soak up the alcohol, and then as you heat you start it by heating the copper tubing, and as the copper tubing heats, it causes the alcohol to evaporate, and then once it evaporates enough, it catches on fire. And then you kind of see in this feedback loop that when the flame ignites, it keeps heating the coil, causing more fumes to form, and therefore feeding the flame. And so it's a really cool method in that it's self-sustaining. And as long as everything's working properly, it'll keep going. And then in order to blow it out, or in order to um, turn off the flame. I forget the word. Sorry, extinguish the flame. You can just blow it out, or if it falls over, it'll also extinguish. Um, uh-oh. Okay, and so some challenges with the original design, based off of our um, creation, our assembly last year. For one, it was not portable. It was very clunky and fragile. And with people who are housing insecure, it's very important that you're able to carry as much of your belongings as possible. And we felt that you shouldn't have to sacrifice heat because it was too clunky or difficult to carry with you. And the next, sort of, when we were making these, we found the flames that we were getting were very inconsistent. And so for one, if they would light, they would slowly fizzle out and extinguish by themselves. And then additionally, if it was consistent, it would be pretty much just a glorified hand warmer. It wasn't really meant for cooking or like substantially heating a tent. And lastly, we wanted to improve the assembly. We found that um, it took several days to assemble, and that was purely because it was waiting for things to dry. And so we wanted to sort of eliminate some of that. And then sort of going more into the um, issues that we found this quarter in making it. We saw that weak flame and some possible causes of this. We thought that the flow rate of the IPA might be lacking. We find that that might be caused by some blockage formed during assembly, or the material used for the wicks, and then some other things. And then once we got it working, we found that there were more issues with overflow. We found that after you lit it and then extinguished it, it would start leaking IPA, which we found was possibly very dangerous should you go to relight the system. And so we did some testing, especially on the wick. We did more testing than this. It's just that this is the best documented one, I'd say. And so we wanted to compare different wicks and see, for one, how can we maximize the flow? Because we've at this point, our most pressing issue was that the heater just wasn't working and it wasn't lighting. And so we did several different materials, kind of sourced from some just like from the paper towel dispenser over there, or some from old clothing, or some from old towels. So we really want to focus on the reusable aspect of some of these materials. And we found that the cotton towel worked the best. And then
So through all of the work that we did, we were able to make some improvements to the design. So to begin with, one of the important parameters was the portability and how clunky and fragile it was. But now we have a more compact design that is much lighter than it is before, because we have this base that is 3D printed and it's just much lighter than a porcelain plate. And to the issues of the inconsistent weak flame, now that we have understood the pump a lot better and have better materials to improve this, we were able to create more robust flames, and as you can see in the pictures. And then lastly, a big issue was how long it took to assemble. So here we have 4 days of an active work time to have this setup work. But now by using either a 3D printed base or air drying clay, which is unfortunately covered by the Zoom thing, we reduced that to 1 day. So we can go to the next one. These are, yeah, okay. Let you guys watch. So on the very left, we're seeing how long it takes to light. And because of time, I would say that we brought it down to like, it used to take like maybe 1 minute and 30 seconds to light. And now it's
over 2 minutes to light, which is more wasting. It's wasting the lighter like fluid. And so everywhere we can cut costs, we try this as much as possible.
And also if you're in a tent and there's a lot of airflow or something, it's just never gonna light. But now we reduce it to roughly 20 seconds. Okay. And then the flame is just much bigger here. And then we got to 500 degrees C, so that's great. And
oh, sorry.
now for future goals, now that we've focused a lot on the pump itself, the next parameter that could be optimized would be the radiator or the pot that is on top. So using like the Stefan Boltzmann equations, we can think about increasing the emissivity of the pot, maybe use the black one instead. You could increase the surface area, or we could just simply use different materials that are capable to have more heat exchange, such as, for example, stainless steel. And ideally, we would want to decrease the assembly time to even less than a day. That would be another parameter to continue optimizing. As you can see, the flame is very, very large, and maybe this is also not the best thing. So improving safety there would also be ideal, and continue to improve things such as transportability and the reduction of size. So thank you, everyone, for everything. So
We'll just put it back on the
Plane, yes. Let's watch that for a second. Questions, burning questions. Yeah, got this one. Yes.
See how you made it a lot better. I guess when I was thinking of the it makes sense why like this is better for like if you guys want to create it and distribute for the purposes of like being able to create it at home. Like it seems like the original is like more complicated. Like I don't know how so much like make
Right, absolutely. And I think a lot of these, like the heater block initiative, is mostly people who have the resources making these and then distributing them. But that's also why we considered the air drying based clay.
You could buy this for like a big pack like this for maybe $10 or less at Michael's, and then use maybe like a sixth of it. You flatten it out, cut a circle around it, and stick the cage on it, and then let it dry.
Yeah, I think one of the functional requirements is every single part in that thing is fetchable by a person who's looked around.
And so we definitely continue working on that. And hopefully we can reduce some of the other, like, make some of the other things easier to make. So like getting a copper coil and like bending it, that might not be accessible, or the epoxy to seal the copper tubing to the can.
Find this, that hole,
Yeah.
figuring out a way to drill the hole.
And the goal of this is for like a group of people to get together with like various skills, and so and produce it. So yeah, like some of these collectives that exist like Philadelphia, New York, like they can't make them, it's just so cold. And they do like 3D printed bases and like
So then if we can improve their design, that would be fantastic. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, safety more broadly.
for one thing, if this heater falls over, it automatically extinguishes because the fuel
That's in the
is
pump.
flammable, but you can.
Additionally, there's this isn't shown, but if you see in here, we designed it so that there's this pocket here. We didn't get to it, but hopefully we could mix some cement and then just pour it in that mold. And then it'll be heavier, but it'll be more controlled and geometrically like uniform, I guess.
I should do some of those topple over safety tests.
Yeah.
I'll find a space there. Do it, but we'll find a space.
It's hard to test with these flames just because of the university's restrictions and regulations. And then when testing here, like with the proper filtration, yeah.
Okay, let's switch.
Thank you for
Yeah,
letting
and
us
then if
know.
people hang around, we can light this up. Also for all the other projects, if somebody wants to try the ostomy bag, like once the talks are over, there is donuts and coffee, and we can actually try some